Hey everyone, it's John again. Today we're going to be going over how to pronounce the letters of the alphabet and then also combinations of letters. So when two letters are put together, certain ones make different sounds or combinations of sounds. So we're going to be covering hopefully all the sounds that need to be made in English and how to properly pronounce them and some examples of the words. So English is a little bit of a messy language where it's a combination of French, original Latin, Germanic languages. So it's there's a lot of different rules that aren't always the case, a lot of different sounds that don't always make sense, and some spellings that don't make sense at all or don't follow the rules sometimes. So really, I'll try my best to cover the most important things to remember, but there's always going to be special cases that might not follow it sometimes, and those you kind of just have to remember. So the first thing we're going to jump into is just we're going to start from the letters of the alphabet and jump in from the top at letter A. So starting with the examples, or for A has two sounds. The first sound is ah. The second sound is A. So ah and A. Apple is the ah. Angry, the second example, is the A sound. So ah for apple, A for angry. And then the next three examples are going to be variations on how to tell when to use which sound. So for the third example, tall, tall uses the ah sound. And then the one after tall is tail. So what makes tail different from tall? Well, there's an E at the end, or there's an E close to the A. So because of the E close to the A, it makes a sound instead of all. It's tall, there's no E, there's no Y at the end, so it's just tall. Because of the E, again, it turns tall into tail. And then the last example is also pronounced tail, T-A-I-L. The AI sound just sounds like A. So it's t-ale, ale. AI sound, it's the same as having A and an E close by. And then we're going to see that a lot of times through these examples, so I'm going to touch on it a lot, but it's one of the biggest things to remember on when reading what turns a sound into an A sound. And it's actually going to be the same rules for an E sound for E turning into the E sound, or turning into U, or U turning into O. So I'm going to touch on that rule set a lot. When there's an E close by to a E or Y close by to a vowel, it changes the way the vowel sounds, and we're going to cover a lot of those. The next example, or the next letter, is a little bit easier. B, 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 B. It has one sound. So easy example here, or maybe not easy, it's a little bit of a brave bumblebee. So if you say it fast, it might be a little bit difficult to say, but if you practice saying brave bumblebee really fast, it'll be the B sound. B, 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 B. Next letter, C. So C can have two different sounds, or two different main sounds. There's the hard C, where it's k, 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 k. It sounds like K. And then there's a soft C that sounds like an S. So S, 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 S. And the examples for those, first one is cat. It's the hard C, k, 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 cat. And then cell. So it turns into a soft C because there's an E there. So E and sometimes Y will turn the hard C into a soft C. So it's not kel, it's cell because of that E there. And the same thing with the next word. So face. Face, it has the A sound, and then it has the soft C because the E is there at the end. So the E is silent at the end, but it changes the A to an A sound and the C to a soft C sound. So it's not fuck. We have another English word that sounds really similar to that, but it's face. The ah turns into an A, and the C goes from k to s because of that E. So face. And then the next example is back. So it has the sound for the A, and then the hard C because there's no E at the end. So in this example, it also has the CK sound. So C and K are close together. The CK it just makes the cuss sound. So it's not anything special. CK, you can view it as one letter essentially, or even if the C is kind of silent, it's just back. You don't have to worry about making a sound for the C and K. Next letter is an easy one where it's D, 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 D. D has one sound. Dog, bad. Hopefully you don't have a bad dog, but D, 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 usually only one sound that I can think of. Might be a special case somewhere or a weird spelling of a word, but D is a straightforward letter. The next letters are E and F. I put these closer together because F is a more simple one, and E kind of pairs together well with it. So E has two sounds, maybe a little bit more depending on how you think of it, but primarily two sounds. It has the S sound and it has the E sound, the same as A. So A has the and A, and A. E has the and E. The first example is feel. Feel has a double E, where it sounds like feel. It definitely has the E sound. So when there's two E's close together, it's almost always going to be the E sound. So feel. The next example is fell, where it has the sound. Fell. The last example, fake. So fake has the silent E at the end. So you don't have to worry about making a sound for the E here because it's at the end and silent. There's usually not a very good rule, a perfect rule to remember when the E is silent at the end. It just almost always is. There's going to be some letters or some words where it doesn't follow that rule. There will be a time where you do have to pronounce the E, but for the most part, 99% of the time, the E at the end will be silent. So it only changes the A. So fake, it uses the A sound because the E is there, but the E is silent. Fake. One more example at the bottom that doesn't follow the rule is I, as in eyeball. So it's just pronounced as the letter I. I can't think of any other words that follow that rule. It's its kind of own special thing, but it's good to remember since I is probably a more common word that you'll need to know. This is going to be our first combination of sounds. So E and A. E and A together is a little bit of an easier one, where EA close together makes the exact same sound as two E's. So EA sounds like E, the double E. Weak, W-E-A-K, weak. It's the exact same sound as W-E-E-K, weak. So that's the rule that will be the vast majority of the time, 95%. The last two examples here are cases where things stop making sense, but it's still important to be aware of. So the next word is either read or read, the past tense, depending on the context. So read and read are spelled the exact same thing, exact same way, but it's kind of its just own special case in English. It just doesn't make sense. So R-E-A-D, it's pronounced as read if it's past tense and read if it's future tense or current present tense. The present tense is the outlier, so usually R-E-A-D would just be pronounced as read. There's also a word for R-E-E-D. It's a plant, and that's pronounced as read as well. Usually, if you want to say red, it'd be spelled like the color R-E-D only. And then there, at the bottom, it's react. So this is a word where it doesn't follow the same rule as the EA, having the E sound. And this word, because it's there's a prefix or two words put together, re and act, you have to pronounce the E and the A at the same time. So react. It's not reeked. Reeked is another word in English that means smelly. You have to, when there's two words together that could be separated into their own separate words, you have to pronounce each word individually. So re and act. That's something that will be more common maybe with the prefix pre. So pre means before. When that's thrown on another word, you have to pronounce that pre by itself first. Same thing with re. There's a few prefixes that we borrow from Latin and Greek that follow that exact same rule, or where they're just two words thrown together. So one example would be watermelon. Watermelon is two words combined together into one. It's not, it doesn't have this EA example, but you still have to pronounce water by itself and melon by itself. It doesn't combine into one word where it mixes together. The next example is G. So G has a few different ways it can be pronounced. Two main ones: a hard G, a soft G, and then it's very commonly a silent G, where it's just not pronounced at all. The first one we'll go over is the hard G. G, 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 g. The second is the soft G, which I might have trouble pronouncing it myself, but it's j, 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 j. So we'll go through the examples, and hopefully it'll be easier to pick out the sound in the words. The first one is game, the hard G, 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 game. And again, the A has the A sound because the E is there. So it's not gom, it's game because that E is there. The next one is bag. It's not big because there's no E, but bag, g, 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 g. The next example is the first one of the soft G. So baggage, j, 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 instead of g, 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 g. So bag, the hard G, age, baggage, the soft G at the end. And it turns into a soft G, again, because that E is there. And you'll notice it's not baggage. It doesn't follow, so the A doesn't change for some reason. I don't know why. It's one that doesn't follow the rule exactly. But the G does turn into a soft G, because the E is there at the end. If the E wasn't there at the end, it'd be baggag. I think baggag, that's not a word, but baggage, because the E is there at the end. The next example is cage. Again, the soft G, the A sound, because the E is there. If the E wasn't there, if it was just C-A-G, it'd be cog. Cog, something like that. It's not a word, so it doesn't make too much sense, but C-A-G-E is cage, J. The soft G is kind of the J sound, J, J, J. The next one is our first example of the silent G. So it's sign, S-I-G-N. Without the G, it would be pronounced as sin, S-I-N. But the G being there does change. The G itself is silent, but it changes the I. So instead of S-I-N being sin, S-I-G-N turns into sign. There's not a good way to remember that. It's just you're going to have to remember what the word sounds like and then recognize it when you read it. So it's one of the ones that doesn't follow the same rule. And it gets more confusing when you look at the full word signal. So signal does have the hard G. It is pronounced, but you'll notice it also pronounces the I different. So instead of sign with the I sound, it's signal with a different I sound and the hard G. The next letter, it's probably easier to say in Ukrainian, or to make the sound in Ukrainian than I can actually. I have trouble making the H sound myself, but it's mostly just air blowing out. I'm not very good at it. So happy, hungry. I'm from the city of Houston. It's a sound. So for Ukrainian, that sound does exist in Ukrainian, so it's probably a little bit of an easier one. One thing to know in English, a lot of people, or at least maybe people with my sort of accent, don't always pronounce the H all the way. So not in all words, but some words will, the H will kind of be silent almost. So for example, if I'm asking if you're hungry, if I'm really trying to pronounce it, I'll say, are you hungry? if I'm just talking really quickly or just kind of sitting there and not paying attention, just sort of mumbling, I'll say, "Are you hungry? Hungry." More like instead of hungry, hungry, or instead of happy, happy. Where the H, a lot of times you might not hear the H actually pronounced. So the H is probably an easier sound, but sometimes in the words it won't be pronounced as strongly. The next letter we're going to be going over is I. So I has a couple different sounds. The first one is I. The second sound is I. I. So it's similar to the E, but it's I and I. I. For the first sound, I is ice. I-C-E, ice. The second example is bite. It's also the I sound. B-I-T-E, bite. You'll notice with these two words, it has the I sound because there's the E there. Again, so we've been mentioning that E close by that changes the way the main letter sounds. So changes the way the vowel sounds. So it's not is, it's because that E is there, it's ice. And again, it's a soft C because that E is there. If the E wasn't there in ice, it would actually be ick. The second example, bite, follows the exact same thing. It'd be bit without the E. With the E, it's bite. The next example, mitten, it's the second sound. I, mi, mit, mit, mi, I, mitten. And you will notice there's an E close by here too, but EN is its own sound. So in the other ones, the E is silent. It doesn't actually have its own sound. In mitten, EN at the end, it does have its sound where it's N. So mit, N. The I doesn't change to the I sound. It doesn't become mitten. It stays as mit, N, mitten. The next example is when there's an A-I sound together. So male, we talked about this one covering the letter A. A-I together sounds like A. So male, A-I, male. And there's not an I in the last example, male again. So male, M-A-I-L, and M-A-L-E sound the exact same. It's because one has the A-I together and one has the E close by. So those make the exact same sound the way those are, even though they're spelled differently. The next letters or combination of letters we're going to cover is CH, 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 and TCH. The exact same thing. Ch, 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 ch. So going through these, CH actually has two different sounds to it. So it has the ch sound. It also has a hard C, k sound, k, k. So we'll go through the examples and explain that a little bit. So the first example is catch. It has the ch, ch, ch sound with the hard C at the front. Catch. The next example is chair. So this has the soft C, CH, 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 chair, chair. The next examples are a little bit different, where instead of the soft CH, it's a hard CH. So character, k, 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 just the K sound, character. And unfortunately, there's not a rule that says whether it's a soft CH or a hard CH. It's just remembering the word. So it's character, not character. There's no way to understand those until you just memorize it, unfortunately. The last example is ache. So again, the K sound, it's not ach, but this is another one you just have to remember. It's a hard CH sound, H. If you see the word arch, A-R-C-H, that's the soft sound. So unfortunately, again, there's just not a rule to remember it by. The next letters are TH, so it's sort of its own sound, separate from the T and H separately. So first example is thanks. One note on thanks is it means the same thing as thank you, but it can come across as rude if used in the wrong setting or at the wrong time. So I'd recommend always saying thank you instead of thanks until you get really comfortable with English, talking with English speakers, hearing how it's used. So say the full thank you. Um, Usually there are times where saying thanks is perfectly fine. Like if someone opened the doors for opens a door for you, you can say thanks. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes, some occasions, it might come across as not being genuine or not being serious or just maybe a little bit not appropriate. So thank you is always a better bet to say instead of thanks, just until you get more comfortable with the language, more familiar with it. But the sound is th, 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 th. The next example is path. So thanks and path. And I put, so I was really hungry when I made this slide. I put a pumpkin pie. And that's partially because Thanksgiving is coming up close for me in the US. So Thanksgiving's at the end of November. So I'm looking forward to that. I was really hungry when I made this, and pumpkin pie sounds really good right now too. The next couple letters is GH. So GH is going to be a very confusing one, and it's one that you just have to remember based on the word. So GH can sometimes sound like an F, so GH can sometimes be silent, and GH can sometimes sound like G, G, where the H is silent, but you still make the hard G noise. So the first example is tough, tough, tough. So the GH becomes an F sound. So there's a few words like this, or there's quite a few words like this where it's enough, tough, rough. Probably a few more I just can't think of right now. The next example is though. So it's the only letters you're really pronouncing is in though is THO. Really, THOW. So the O will cover the O and U sound. Sorry, the O and U have its own sound where it sounds like a W. OW. Though the G and H are pretty much silent. So though. Unfortunately, there's no rule set between tough and though to know when to make which sound. You just have to remember the words by how they're spelled. There's not a way to tell it apart. The next example is ghost, where it's a silent H and a hard G, ghost. There's a few words that have this. It's not too many, so maybe it's not the most important thing, but usually if you see GH at the front of the word, it's going to be, you'll pronounce the G, a hard G, and a silent H. So ghost, ghost. There might be a little bit of a hint of the H sound, but it doesn't really have to be worried about. The next letter is J. J. It sounds almost exactly like the soft G. It may be a little bit, but it's used a little bit more commonly, and it only has one sound where the G has multiple. So jar is the first example. So a jar of honey, a pickle jar, jar, j. And then adjust, just, j. The next one is K. So we've covered this a few times in previous examples where it's just part of the word. The K is straightforward sound. K, 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 k. Cake. So this C actually is the hard C, where it sounds exactly like K. So it's two K sounds. Cake. And if you can't tell, I was hungry when I was making these slides. So another dessert item. And then there's L and M. I put these two together because I feel like they're commonly used in the same word or really close by each other often. So L has one sound, L, la 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 la, L. You're sort of just put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, L. And then there's M. It also has one sound, There, within those sounds, sometimes they'll be a little bit more pronounced, or maybe softer. You'll get familiar with that when you get more comfortable with speech. So the first one is leak. Leak. It's more of the stronger L at the front. Leak, again, EA, just sounds like the E sound, double E, leak. the second example is mall, mall. It's a little bit of a softer L at the end, but it's mostly the exact same pronunciation. There's not really any difference. Mall. And then money, money. And for this example, so it's money where it's mon, e. EY makes its own sound, so it's part of the word. It's not money because the EY is its own sound. If it was just an E at the end, it would be moan. But since the EY, has its own sound, the O doesn't change. The O doesn't become an O sound. It's money. So we'll cover that when we get to O soon, but hopefully that makes sense there. The next example is calm. So hard C, calm, LM is close together often, and it has a sound, calm, There's calm, palm. I can't think of any other words right now, but L and M are pretty frequently close together. So calm. The next letter is N. There's one sound for this. Na. So first example is noon. Then there's sink. There's two definitions of sink, where there's like a sink where you wash your hands, and then it's like a boat sinking in water. The last two examples, it covers when there's a silent K. So really frequently in English, there will be a K and N together. That K is going to almost always be silent. So there's new, the past tense of no, sounds new with K-N-E-W, sounds the exact same as N-E-W. New and new. There's night, knife, knitting. There's many words that have the K-N sound, or the K-N letters, and the K is silent. The next letter is O. So O has really two main sounds, but it can be changed up a lot when it's combined with other letters. So the first and probably the most common sound is low, the O sound. So low, O. The next one is when there's an O and A together, it makes that same O sound. So load, O, A together, make O. You can almost ignore the A in that, and it just makes the O sound. If the A wasn't there though, if it was L-O-D instead of L-O-A-D, it would be lod. So O-A makes the O sound, load. So, and then there's O-U. When O-U are together, it makes an ow sound. So loud, ow. O-U, ow, loud. Found, round, ow. And then it goes into the simpler O sound, where it's the short O. So top, mop, pop, rock. I'm really blanking on other words, but it's the short O sound. And then there's T-O and T-O-O, so two and two. These have the oo sound. So two, if there's an E at the end, T-O-E, it would be toe. So the E changes the oo sound to an O sound. So T-O is two, T-O-E is toe. So with that E that we've been talking about, the E or Y, it changes oo to O. So the T-O is two, T-O-E is toe. M-O-P is mop, M-O-P-E is mope. T-O-P is top, T-O-P-E is tope. So two and two though, so these are a little bit special where they're pronounced the exact same, but T-O-O is the oo sound. O-O is oo. Two, food. Um, really blanking really hard on other words, but O and O close together or next to each other make oo. It's the oo sound just a little bit longer. Food, to, oo. The next sound is P. So P uh, by itself only has one sound. Paint, paint, paint. And then there's the PH sound, which has the F sound. So phone, photo, when there's a PH together. But P by itself, it always has the sound. And I say that there are some words that are borrowed from other languages that have a silent P. So psychology, it has a silent P in it. So really more maybe scientific words or words that come from Latin, Greek. Don't know which one exactly it is, but sometimes you'll see a silent P. But for the most part, most common words, the P will have the p sound, or when it's PH, it'll be phone, as in the F sound. If you have questions on which words have the silent P, I can help out with that, or maybe it would be helpful to look them up. Psych or psychology is one of them. There's a few others, but it's not very common. They're not commonly used words, especially in normal conversation or normal reading. It's more maybe scientific books or very specific topics, words like higher education. The next sound is Q. So Q has usually just one sound where it's qua, 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 qua. It has a KW sound to it. So you can imagine Q as usually just as KW. Sometimes we'll see in the last example another way to say it. So queen, you'll almost always see Q and U right next to each other. So QU, queen, queen. It's the exact same thing as saying KW, queen. You can't tell any difference between QU and KW. So queen, quit. The last example, unique. So when it's the QUE sound, it makes a K sound, so unique. Usually you'll see that at the end of the word only. I think it's a French thing. Honestly, not sure. The French influence on English makes everything more confusing. But uni is its own part, and then K, QUE has the K sound, so unique. Usually, though, all you have to worry about the QU sound, or even the Q by itself, will have the KW sound. Queen, quit, quiet. So for quit, for another example, QUIT is quit. If you add an E at the end, it becomes quiet. So quit turns into, it has the I sound for the I. Qua, I, t, quit. If you add an E, it's quiet, quiet. The I sound turns into an I sound on the I. So quit without the E, with the E at the end, it turned into quiet. And then put a little duck at the bottom. So I've heard animals have different words for the sounds they make in different countries, or even just kind of pronounced differently, but in the US at least, ducks make quack, quack, quack sounds. So QU, quack, 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 quack. The next letters are R and S. So R and S both generally have one sound each. S has a few different sounds when paired with other letters, though. So we'll cover the simple ones first and then get into the other combinations of S later on. So R is actually a letter I have trouble pronouncing, and I think it's very common for English speakers to even have trouble pronouncing as well. Usually when the R is close together with another R. So I'll go over that example in the first word, but R makes the r sound. So rar, gur, The first word is, I'll try to really pronounce it correctly here, is rare. rare. That's how it's close to how it's supposed to sound. I'm not saying exactly right, but with when it's said more in common speech or when people are talking normally, when there's two R's close together like that, it's gonna sound more jumbled, more mixed together. So instead of rare, it'll sound more like rare. If I say something is, it's really rare. So it is really rare for that to happen. If I'm talking more quickly, more normally, I'll say it's really rare for that to happen. Where rare turns into rare. It's just the R sounds run together for a lot of English speakers. So if you're trying to pronounce it right, it's rare or words like that. But commonly you'll hear the sounds sort of run together and it might be harder to pick up. The next word is an easier example of the R sound, river. So the R's are far apart, river. And you'll notice, so it's the I in river, it stays as the I sound, so riv and The ER has its own specific sound, so the E doesn't change the I to river. If the R wasn't there at the end, it'd be rive, but since the ER does make its own sound, the I doesn't change. It's just river, river, not river, river. And the next example is going into the S. So S generally makes the S sound, with like snake, a snake hissing. So S, S, S. The first example is soft, soft. That one's more straightforward sound. The next example is shake. So S and H together make the sh sound, like you're telling someone to shh, be quiet. It's shh, shh, shake. I'm really blanking on all words right now. And then the next example I put in there because it makes a similar sound, but sugar is its own special word, where S and U usually sound like summer, where the S is still the exact same. Summer is a mostly normal word. The SU and sugar, it's just the S. For some reason, the S in sugar, it's sugar. It's a little bit of its own unique sound that doesn't really exist in other words in English, but it's like a common word, so it's worth calling out here. Sugar, sugar. And then normally the SU would sound like summer, summer. So the first, a really common combination of S will be SC. So the SC, you can have S in a hard C and S in a soft C. So for the first example, it will be looking at the hard C, where it's sk, 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 scar, scary. And you'll see I put scar and scary because the Y at the end, it acts the same way as the E does. So SCAR is scar, SCARY, it's not scary, it's scary. So the Y sounds exactly the same as the E, and it changes that A in the middle. The next one is the soft, or the hard C again, school, school. So this one might be a little bit of a confusing word because you'll want to combine the S and C and not the C and H. So it's school, school. And then we'll get into this soft C combined with the S, where it's scent or science. So what you'll see for scent and science, what they have in common is there's an E by the C. So when there's an E or I next to the C, it turns into a soft C. So school, there's no E or I next to that C, so it's the hard C, school. And scent and science, there's the E next to the C, there's the I next to the C. So it's scent and science. It's not skent, it's scent because that E is there. It's not science because that I and E is there. It's science. And same thing at the end of science, that C at the end is a soft C because that E is there. So it's not science, it's science because the CE sound is the soft C. The next letter is a little bit of an easier one. T, 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 tattoo, fat, fat as in maybe Amerykański je duże żyru. I hope I said that right or didn't say it too bad. I can say it because I'm American and y'all can say it if you want because it's also true. So Americans are a little bit on the bigger side. The last example is true. TR. The TR sound, it combines for its own sound. So T and R together will sound like truck, true, truffle, treat. TR, it's tr. And again, a general rule on those is when it's two words combined together, you won't pronounce those together. So since true is one word, it's tr. But if you had two separate words combined together, you wouldn't necessarily pronounce the T and R together. So you just have to learn words individually, and then when you see them together, you pronounce them the first word, second word, or the first prefix, next prefix. Those break the normal rules about having two letters close together. The next letter is U. So this has the U sound. It has the sound, and it will mostly follow the same exact rules as A and I. So when there's an E close by or there's a Y close by. The additional thing about U is there's a lot of different combinations that you can use with it. So when there's a UI in it, and when there's an O and U next to each other, or there's an A and U next to each other, there's going to be a different way to pronounce those. The first word example is U. So this one I want you to think of completely separate from the others. I put this because it's a super common word. U, it's its own thing. So don't look at it as how to pronounce U, the letter U. Just remember that U is pronounced as U. And then on the next examples, we'll actually get into how to pronounce individual times you see the letter. So the next one is BLUE, blue. And it has the U sound because the E is there. So it's not blah, it's blue because it's UE. Blue, ooh. The next one is fun. So it has the sound, fun, fun. And then we get into when you and I are together. So when you and I are together, it sounds like build, I. You can almost not pronounce the U and just focus on the I. So UI close together sounds like build, build, UI. The next example is O and U. It sounds like O and W. So O, found, round. It doesn't sound much different from town, 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 found, round, pound. Those are all loud. It's all examples of O and U have the OW sound. O, ow, found, fow, ow. The next example is AU. When A and U are next to each other, it makes a sauce, sauce, AU, August, So it's really a focus on the A in it. But if the U wasn't there in sauce, so if we'd spelled sauce like SACE, that E would be telling you to change the sound to an A, so it would become sace. But the AU separates that. The U is basically separating the A and the E, so it's sauce, AU, just kind of that from the A sound. And the E at the end also makes that C a soft C. And then August, and August. That's two different ways to pronounce the U. So the U is mostly silent, for AU, and then gust. So the next letter we're going to be covering is V. V makes the V sound, vroom, So V and vote, VOTE, vote. This is another example where the E changes the O sound. So without the E, VOT would be vot. With the E, it becomes VOTE, vote. vote. So I talked about that rule where the E changes the vowel sound that's close by. Now we're going to cover one where it doesn't follow the rule. So English is messed up. I don't know what language love comes from, but love doesn't follow the rule where it becomes love for some reason. So it's love, love. And hopefully that's an appropriate Ukrainian translation there. So I still haven't learned the real difference between Ljubiti and Kohatsi and all the different words for love. I'm still trying to understand the differences there. So hopefully it's an appropriate translation into love. But the V sound, V, V. The next letter is W. So W in English, it doesn't make the V sound like in other language. W makes a W sound. W. So for the examples on W, I put all the question words, where English it's extremely confusing, where all the question words have the W sound, especially so they all sound alike. I'm sure it's terrible to try and learn the differences. So the first one example is who. It's a little bit of special case where you do pronounce the H sound only. So who sounds more like just H-O. You don't have to worry about whoa. It doesn't sound like whoa. Who specifically, it's a separate case where it's who. It just sounds like H-O-O. On all the others, what, when, where, why, and how, the H is, what, when, where, and why, the H is silent. So what, when, where, why, who, what, when, where, why, and how. So how at the end, it's the W at the end still has the w sound. And at the very end, I put one more example that isn't a question word, where it's water. So instead of the v sound that's in other languages for water, it's a w. So on this example for X, I'm from Texas. It has the X sound. I put a big map of Texas and all the kind of stereotype of what's going on in each part of Texas, the famous buildings or different events that go on, what each area is known for. I was feeling a little bit of Texas pride. So, but the X sound, it sounds like a KS, X. It's really hard sound to make just by itself, but Texas, X, like ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, X, it's just the X sound. So Texas, Mexico, maximum, taxes, axe. You can think of the X as KS. And getting close to the end here, but why? So why can be a confusing one. It's important to know the different rules on it, where Y can sometimes be a vowel where it's pronounced exactly like E, but we'll cover mostly the two sounds of Y. And then, or actually it's at least three, and sometimes it's silent. So hopefully I'll cover all of them. I'll try to give good examples here, but we'll see. I'm sure there's always going to be rules that aren't covered. There's just too much messed up with the English language where it has the combination. I've heard it's multiple languages kind of standing in a trench coat. It's a bit of a mess. Yours, so yeah, and then yellow, yeah. And then we go into the sound where Y sounds like an I, so bye. Sky. The Y has an I sound. And then at the end, it's when the Y has an E sound. So lazy. And the Y at the end changes the A exactly like an E would. So lazy. E. Lazy. And then beauty. The Y at the end, it has the E sound. So Y can be yeah. It can be I, and it can be E. So not confusing at all. So hopefully that helps. there's going to be just a big learning process where it's getting familiar with the words and then remembering how it's pronounced. But yeah, yeah, yeah. It can make the I sound and it can make the E sound. So hopefully, and the E sound is generally only at the end of the words. So beauty is the last word. Growing up, I was always having trouble on how to spell this word or how to pronounce it. But if I were to break it down, the E-A sound, we covered this earlier, E and A together, it's just a double E sound. So E-A is just E. So B-E-A is B. And then U-T-Y is Uti. So B-U-T, B-U-T, beauty, beautiful. And then last, we have Z. So Z, 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 Z. Dizzy. And then in the US, we say zebra. If you maybe ask a British person, they'll say zebra, or maybe an Australian, zebra. In the US, we say zebra, zebra, z, z. I hope all this was helpful. If you have any questions, just reach out and let me know. Or if you have any ideas on other videos that might be helpful for you, just reach out, let me know, and I can make a video on that topic. I'll try to try to go back to making a video every week. I've been a little bit busy with travel and work, but I'll try to get back onto like a weekly schedule, or at least every other week schedule. Again, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.